As the relentless missile assault persisted for 2 weeks, Ruta deemed it time to escalate the conflict further. Channeling the strategic prowess of blitzkrieg, a tactic famously employed by the Nazis in World War II, Ruta prepared to unleash the full might of guerrillist forces. The blitzkrieg strategy, characterized by swift and coordinated attacks from infantry, navy, and air force, aimed to rapidly encircle and annihilate the enemy's main forces. Taking a page from history, Ruta sought to achieve the sudden and shocking impact that characterized blitzkrieg. By orchestrating deep thrusting operations with concentrated tank and mechanized units, supported by the overwhelming might of the Air Force. Guerrillas intended to break through Tajera's defense lines swiftly and decisively. Blitzkrieg's primary advantage lay in its ability to paralyze the opponent, leaving them little time to react or regroup. In the early stages of World War II, the Nazi army employed this tactic with devastating success during invasions of Poland, the Netherlands, Belgium, and France. Now, Ruta adapted and applied this strategy in the ongoing conflict with Tajera, aiming for a similarly swift and overwhelming victory. The storm of annihilation was about to be unleashed upon Tajera, testing the mettle of both nations in a battle that echoed the pages of history, as guerrillist forces mobilized for the blitzkrieg assault. Tajera braced itself for the onslaught to come. President Wiza knew that the coming days would be the most critical in Tajera's history, as they faced the full fury of guerrillist aggression. With every passing moment, the tension in Tajera's cities grew palpable, as citizens prepared themselves for the inevitable clash that loomed on the horizon. In the command centers of both nations, generals and strategists worked feverishly to finalize their plans for the coming battle. For Tajera, the challenge lay in defending against the lightning-fast strikes of the blitzkrieg, while guerrillists sought to break through Tajera's defenses and secure a decisive victory. As the first light of dawn broke across the horizon, the sound of engines roaring to life filled the air as guerrillist forces surged forward, their tanks and armored vehicles thundering towards Tajera's borders. The ground shook beneath their treads as they advanced, a relentless tide of steel and firepower aimed at crushing all resistance in their path. In the skies above, guerrillist aircraft screamed through the air, their engines roaring as they unleashed a barrage of bombs and missiles upon Tajera's defenses. The deafening roar of explosions filled the air as Tajera's anti-aircraft guns opened fire, desperately trying to fend off the relentless assault from above. On the ground, Tajera's defenders stood ready to meet the onslaught head-on, their resolve unshaken in the face of overwhelming odds. With every passing moment, the sound of gunfire and explosions grew louder as the two sides clashed in a desperate struggle for supremacy. But despite their best efforts, Tajera's defenses began to buckle under the relentless assault of the blitzkrieg. Guerrillist tanks smashed through Tajera's defensive lines, their guns blazing as they swept aside all opposition in their path. The once proud cities of Tajera now lay in ruins, their streets littered with the wreckage of war as civilians fled in terror from the advancing tide of destruction. In the command center, President Wiza watched with growing horror as the situation grew increasingly dire. Despite their best efforts, Tajera's defenders were being overwhelmed by the sheer force of guerrillist aggression. With each passing moment, the dream of victory seemed to slip further from their grasp, leaving only despair and destruction in its wake. But amidst the chaos and despair, a glimmer of hope remained alive in the hearts of Tajera's defenders. For they knew that as long as they stood united, there was still a chance to turn the tide of battle in their favor. With every fiber of their being, they vowed to fight on, refusing to surrender to the darkness that threatened to engulf them. As the battle raged on, the streets of Tajera's cities ran red with blood as the two sides fought tooth and nail for control of the embattled nation. But amidst the carnage and chaos, President Wiza remained resolute in his determination to defend Tajera's sovereignty at all costs. For he knew that the fate of his nation hung in the balance, and that failure was not an option. In the end, it would be a battle not just of steel and firepower, but of will and determination. And as the storm of annihilation raged on, only time would tell which side would emerge victorious in the struggle for dominance.